After Mel's powerful sermon last week, I began to reflect on the question, when have I felt beloved? As I pondered this question, one memory kept coming up for me. I think back to the time when I was 14 and I was volunteering most Saturday mornings with a nonprofit organization called Front Porch Alliance. And it was based in the Ivanhoe neighborhood of Kansas City, Missouri. On those Saturday mornings when I was there, I helped serve breakfast before spending time with the little kids while their parents attended classes and seminars. I loved being there. But like most teenagers, my schedule got busy, and I stopped coming as regularly as I once did. And then on one chilly Saturday morning, much like this Sunday, I was able to go to Front Porch Alliance and volunteer. And so I was serving breakfast when I heard the door open and felt a small body crashing into the side of my legs. I looked over and saw that it was Frankie. At that time, Frankie was about 3 years old, and she had boundless energy and so much warmth to share. And so as I looked over, I bent down and I picked up Frankie, and then she looked at me. And she grabbed my face in her little palms. And she said, "You left, and I missed you. I knew I would find you. I still love you." And then she proceeded to give me the best hug I've ever received. Again and again, God meets us. Our gospel text today may look a bit familiar. That's because we looked at the first part of this story together only a few weeks ago. It's when we talked about how God meets us at the riverside, not in the synagogue, but in an everyday place where everyone in the community would come to find nourishment and water. The location was important because it established that God and God's love was meant for everyone, not just religious leaders or anyone who was allowed in the synagogue. And this idea was radical and mind-blowing. This idea that the divine could be found in such a common place. And today, we're reminded one more time that God meets us again and again in unexpected places, like the warm embrace of a 3-year-old, or a descending dove from the heavens, or even a bow arced across the sky. Again and again, God meets us. This is important for us to remember. Over the course of the next 5 weeks in Lent, we'll read scripture passages about covenants or promises that God makes with God's people, along with stories of the ministry of Jesus that continues to bear witness and fulfill these ancient promises. And today is no exception to these parallel stories. In fact, this is the place where we begin. God's promise to never destroy or wipe out all of creation again is one of the divine promises that sets up this moment in Jesus' life as we witness his baptism before he is driven out into the wilderness. The author of this piece in Genesis reminds us of God's heart for creation. After divine anger wipes the face of the earth clean, compassion and remorse seep through God's heart, and God promises to never, ever, ever do this again. As we were reading this text in our Monday morning Bible study, our member Tom mentioned how incredible it is that God would choose to limit God's self in this way. It's almost as if this ancient story is not only a reminder of God's love for creation, but it is a reminder that is so powerful that it even jolted God out of this divine anger. And it also is a way of noting a change in the relationship between creator and creation. It's as if the author is trying to tell us that there is a change in God's relationship with humanity. Rather than a relationship based on fear of being destroyed, God reaches out to God's people and begins to build a relationship of trust and love, with this rainbow as a visual proclamation and an enduring symbol of this divine promise. Again and again, God meets us. And so as we turn to the gospel text today, we do so holding in mind the symbolism of this rainbow and the enduring faithfulness of God's promise. And it is here at the riverside where we watch God meet God's people yet again. And this time, it is through the story of Jesus. Scholars write that it is so important for us to remember that God claims Jesus as beloved before Jesus does anything. God meets Jesus at the riverside and claims Jesus as beloved before Jesus does anything in his ministry. He simply goes and gathers with others and is met by God. This is how the story of Jesus begins in the Gospel according to Mark. This is the beginning of Jesus' journey. And it's a reminder that it's the beginning of ours as well. Before we can do anything, say anything, we are claimed as God's beloved children. And that endearment is backed up with countless divine promises that remind us of this love, just like an arc of color in the sky. Again and again, God meets us. Shortly after being called beloved, Jesus is driven out into the wilderness, where he will grow more fully into his identity. The text shows us this in a truly creative way. Each test Jesus faces in the wilderness uses words that will show up later in his ministry. The Greek words used to explain Jesus being driven out into the wilderness are the same words Jesus will speak as he drives out evil spirits. And then later on, another interpretation of the phrase, the angels waited on him, is the angels served him. And the verb that is translated both as wait and serve is the same verb used when Jesus speaks the words in Mark 10. I came not to be served, but to serve. It is through this use of repetitive language that we see the depth of transformation that this experience in the wilderness had on Jesus. This wilderness that tested Jesus shaped his identity wholly and truly. And yet the starting place for all of this began with the words, "You are my beloved. With you I am well pleased." Jesus was beloved before he ever went out into the wilderness, before he ever experienced transformation. And friends, the same is true for all of us. As Mel said last week, you are loved just because you exist. This is the place where we begin. Like Jesus, we begin with remembering that we are beloved, with whom God is well pleased. Nothing we can do or say can unstick this love from us. In fact, it is through this love that we experience being driven out into the wilderness so that we might experience transformation and lean more fully into the people that God has created us to be. Again and again, God meets us at the riverside, in the sky, and in the wilderness. As I think back to that memory with Frankie, I remember having this deep feeling. It was as if for the first time in my life, I felt God was speaking those words directly to me. And Frankie didn't know how much I needed those words. She didn't know how lonely I had been feeling. She didn't know I was experiencing the hardest year of school I had ever had. It was a time in my life where I didn't feel like I had any friends, and classes were really hard. And I was in the middle of what was probably my first major depressive episode. The warmth and startling truth of her words met me in my deepest pain and planted seeds of hope in my heart. For a moment, I breathed a little easier, and I left that day being able to walk a little steadier. Her proclamation did not take me out of the wilderness of my 8th grade year. There was much more growing and pain and navigating left to do. But it did ground me in love and offered me a place to begin again. Frankie changed my life. Her love shaped my heart, and she planted hope deep within my soul. Her love offered me the change to grasp hold of the love that God offers and to let it transform me so that I could lean into more fully who God was creating me to be. Recognizing that we are beloved is the place where we begin this Lenten journey. Much like baptism, understanding God's love for us and for all of creation is where our journeys begin. And if we begin to forget, again and again, God will meet us at the riverside or like a bow in the sky and will say to us over and over again until we hear it and hold it, "You are my beloved. With you I am well pleased." Friends, may this love be an invitation for us to begin again and again this Lent and every day of our lives. This is good news. Thanks be to God.